Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a video where I'm going to be talking about the kind of eye brushes I use and what different kinds and shapes of brushes are for. Alright, so I have so many here. I'm just going to pick them out randomly and just tell you what I use them for as we go along. So here is the first brush. Now this is the Sigma E40. This is just a typical blending brush. It's not that fluffy and it's not that dense. I think it's like just right in the middle. I would use this for is I would just pop this right in the crease and just blend the color right here throughout the crease. I wouldn't really use this brush to apply the transition shade, like the one that you usually use that's closest to your skin tone to transition from the brow bone color from the crease color, because this one's a little more dense than the one I would use, but that's just a preference. Alright, next I have this fluffy shader brush. Now it's not a typical shader brush, the smaller, more compact ones that you usually see. This is a lot fluffier one. It's from Wet n Wild. And this is the one that clearly I use it to spread out the concealer that I prime my eyelids with. I also like to use this brush to just blend the brow bone color in with the transition and crease color, because since it's so fluffy, it's really good to blend the two shades in together. Next, I have this, again, crease brush right here. It is a Morphe brush from their Gunmetal Set. I got one of the smaller Gunmetal sets, so it doesn't have the actual brush name on it. But yeah, this is what the brush looks like. And this is really similar to the Sigma E40, except, as you can see, it's a little bit fatter than the Sigma E40, and it's also denser. So with this brush, I like to treat it similarly to the E40, and I just use it to apply the crease color. And like I said before, because it's so dense, I don't really like to use it for my transition shade. I just like to use it to apply my crease color. It usually blends it out quite nicely because it's much fluffier than the E40. Next, I have this shader brush right here. Now, the brushes that you see with the black handle and the pink metal part, when I first started doing makeup is when I got these makeup brushes, and I bought them from CVS. And I don't know what brand they were or anything like that, but yeah, these were actually the very first set of makeup brushes that I ever got, and I still use them because they do work quite well. So, like I said, it's a rather large shader brush. I will either like to use it to apply my brow bone color, so I just go like this and apply the brow bone color, and then I will blend it down like this, or I like to use it to pat on my lid color. Now, I will only really use a shader brush this big for my lid color when I'm doing things like a smoky eye, because you want the color to blend up anyways, and since the brush is so big, it won't really just get the lid, it'll go a little bit farther. But if I want to get really technical and really precise, I won't use this brush because it's much larger than other shader brushes. Alright, so the next brush is this Sephora brush. It's just called an eyeshadow brush. It doesn't have a specific name. I use this brush in the same exact manner as I use the Wet n Wild fluffy eyeshadow brush, but I usually only use this to apply my brow bone color. I don't use it to blend out the concealer. Right, next I have this very short shader brush from Morphe, and again, this doesn't have a brush name. I like to generally use this brush to cut my crease just because the brush is so precise in its bristles, so I like to use it with concealer to cut my crease like in this manner. Or I will also use it to clean up my eyeliner. I like to use short shader brushes that are not as fluffy and they have precise bristles, and they like thin out towards the top, so I like to use these for concealer usually, or occasionally I'll use it to clean up my eyebrows. But you could also use this brush to, like I said, apply eyeshadow on your eyelid more precisely. Next I have this Wet n Wild shader brush, and this brush is just a typical shader brush that I would just use to apply eyeshadow to either my eyelid or my brow bone. It's just a regular shader brush that you would use for that. Next, I have this pointy brush. Normally, I like to use this to highlight my inner corner like this. Or if I want a more precise highlight on my eyebrow, I will go like this. Here I have a smudger brush. It's like a short shader brush, but it's even shorter than that and stubbier. And also the bristles are a lot more dense. I usually use this brush to apply eyeshadow right beneath the lower lash line. It's really technical and really precise, so I like to use this right beneath when I want to really define the lower lash line right there. Alright, my next brush is my favorite brush of all. It's the angled eyeshadow brush, and this, honestly, out of all these brushes, this is the one I have to have, but that is obviously because I'm obsessed with doing my eyebrows, and this is the brush that I need to do my eyebrows. I think it says it's the MAC 208 brush. Now I am trying to transition to be completely cruelty free, so I need to find a dupe for this brush. If you guys know of one, please let me know, because I have yet to find a brush that I enjoy as much as this one. Like I said, I use this brush to fill in my brows because it's very precise in its application, and I just love how it works. And occasionally, but rarely, I will use it as I use a smudger brush to apply eyeshadow right beneath my lower lash line. My next brush is this brush right here, and this brush is from the Essence of Beauty collection or makeup brand from CVS. And this is also one of the very first brush sets I ever bought when I very first started doing makeup, and I do still use them because even though I have a whole bunch of other brushes, this is my favorite blending brush to use. And I think that's because it's not as dense as most blending brushes. I really enjoy how do I say this? I actually do quite enjoy how soft it applies makeup. I don't know if that makes sense, but since it's not as dense, it doesn't apply the makeup as heavily. And so I like that about this brush, that it gives you more ability to build up the color of different eyeshadows. So this is the brush that I use to apply my transition shade, because if I want it lighter or darker, it doesn't matter. I can do it all with this brush. Alright, now here I have the Morphe Y21 brush. It's like a taller smudger brush, and it's more square than the one that I showed you before. And this kind of brush I like to use for the same purpose as a smaller smudger brush. I like to use it to get right beneath my lower lash line and get really close to it. But I do also like using it occasionally to clean up my concealer, as I showed you with this Morphe brush before, except this one's round and this one is square. So this one just is, they work the same to me. I don't really see a difference between the two, and I actually prefer the rounder one over this one, so I generally use this one more for getting closer to the lower lash line. And here I have the Sigma E30 pencil brush, and I use this in the same fashion that I use this brush right here, except the Sigma one is a lot more dense and it's thicker, and it also picks up more of the product and applies it better. So I prefer this one over this one for inner corner highlighting, but I do still use both. I have this very large shader brush from Wet n Wild, and I like to use this brush to occasionally I will use it to apply my eyelid color, even though it's very large. I use it if any of my other brushes are not available, but it's usually my last choice. But what I do like using it for is I like to use it to blend out my eyeshadow base. So that is whether I use like the NYX jumbo pencils, or if I use a eyeshadow primer, I do like to use this brush to blend those out. I have the Sephora Lip Brush, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You just use this to apply any lip colors to your lip, or I also, very rarely, I will use it to highlight my inner corner if I don't have any other brushes available. I have this side of the brush that came with the Naked Basics palette. Doesn't have a name, but it is double-sided. It has this fluffier side, but I feel like I've explained this, what I would use that side for many times in other brushes. But compared to the smudger brush I showed you guys before, this one is shorter and it is thicker, so it's not as precise as the other one. But what I generally like to do is I like to use this also for my lower lash line. However, I will use it as the middle shade. I won't use it as my transition shade for my lower lash line, and I won't use it as my defining shade. I'll use it for the middle shade to make the colors blend out even more. I have another Holy Grail brush, and sadly that's another MAC brush. And just a disclaimer, I am still using these MAC brushes because one, they work perfectly for me, and two, I spent a lot of money on them, so I'm going to use them until they run out. But I am not going to continue to buy the same brush because of my commitment that I'm trying to make with being cruelty free. but I have the MAC 217 brush. This brush is the best blending brush that I have. I use it for everything, anytime, every video, I feel like. And that is because for me, it's like the perfect shape for blending. It's has a perfect dome shape, and it's not too fluffy but not too dense. It's like just perfect. And another reason it's like a great size, just because you can use it to apply the color in your crease on the top, or you can also use it to blend out your eyeshadows on the bottom, because it's not too big that it will go too far down. It's like the perfect size to blend on your lower lash line as well. And also, depending on the look, I will sometimes use this brush to pack color on my lid. Otherwise, I won't really use blending brushes to pack color on the lid. Next, I have the MAC 242 brush, and this is my favorite shader brush. Of course, they're all MAC brushes, which is something I can't use anymore, but they're so good. But this is my favorite shader brush because the brush itself is just so round, and all the bristles are precise and aligned with one another perfectly, that they just apply the shadows very, very precisely. Now, this is my go-to brush to highlight my brow bone, and this is also my go-to brush to apply color on my lid. So next, I have this other Morphe brush. It doesn't have a name yet again, but this is very similar to the Sigma E40, except it's smaller and less fluffy, so it's more precise. I like to use this brush to really get into the crease. So this is the brush that I would use, not as my transition shade, not as my crease shade, but my defining color for my crease. Now I have this E.L.F contour brush, and I like to use this brush rarely. I don't really use it that much, but I will use it occasionally just to really pack color on my outer V when I'm doing a really intense look. But other than that, I don't use this brush quite often. So yeah, those are all the different kinds of brushes that I have. I know I had some doubles, but there were slight differences that do make a difference in how they work and apply. Now, just a disclaimer, these brushes do not have to be used how I say that I use them. This is just my experience with them and how I see that they work best, but brushes can definitely be used in any way. Like, I even use some of these to contour my nose, contour my face. You don't have to use them just for your eyes. You can use them however they work for you. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see any more videos like this, or if you have any requests, please let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Ugh. There better be one good in there, cause shit, I cried like 10 times.